Long before the Empire rose from the ashes of the Republic, long before the Clone Wars tore the galaxy apart, long before the Jedi Temple stood proud on Coruscant, there was an age of legends, an age of heroes who became monsters, an age of secrets buried so deep that even the Force itself whispers warnings to those who seek them. This is the Old Republic, where every savior became a destroyer, where every choice led to devastation, where the greatest Jedi who ever lived put on a mask and nearly conquered the galaxy, not for power, but to save it from something far worse. Imagine standing in the ruins of the Dantooine Enclave, surrounded by the shattered remains of 1,000 years of wisdom. The meditation chambers are burnt, the training halls are collapsed, and in the dust you find a holocron, damaged, ancient, whispering fragments of a story the Jedi Council tried to erase. A story of Revan, the Jedi who fell to save the Republic, of Malak, the apprentice who betrayed everything, of the exile, who walked away from the Force itself, of Mandalorians manipulated into a war they could never win, and beneath it all, a darkness in the unknown regions, watching, waiting, orchestrating 4,000 years of galactic destruction. But here is what the Council never told you. Revan did not fall by accident. The Mandalorian Wars were not random, and the Jedi Civil War was not about conquest. It was all preparation, a desperate, terrible plan to fight an enemy the Republic does not even know exists. An immortal Sith Emperor who consumed an entire planet to live forever and now hungers for the whole galaxy. Tonight we journey into the most devastating era of galactic history, the Old Republic, where heroes paid the ultimate price, where the Jedi Order's greatest failures were born, and where secrets shaped 4,000 years of war. From Revan's tragic sacrifice to the exile's impossible choice to the Mandalorian crusades that were nothing but a test, their story is one of heartbreak, manipulation, and the terrible weight of truth. So before you settle in, take a moment to like this video, and here is something that might surprise you. Over 70% of you watching right now are not subscribed. If you are enjoying these deep dives into Star Wars history, hit that subscribe button. It costs nothing but means everything in helping this channel grow. Drop a comment below and tell me where in the galaxy you are tuning in from, what time it is there, and which Old Republic character fascinates you most. I genuinely love seeing our community span across time zones and continents, all united by a love for these epic tales. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that calming background hum, wrap yourself in your blanket, and let's descend into the Old Republic's most devastating secrets together. The year is 3956 before the Battle of Yavin. The Jedi Civil War has just ended. Darth Malak is dead. Revan has vanished into the unknown regions with no explanation, leaving only questions and destruction behind. The Republic is broken. Entire worlds are scarred by orbital bombardment. Taris is ruins. Telos is a wasteland. Dantooine, the peaceful agricultural world that once housed one of the greatest Jedi enclaves in the galaxy, lies shattered. You are a Jedi historian, not a warrior, not a guardian, a seeker of truth in an order that has built itself on comfortable lies. You stand now in what remains of the Dantooine Enclave. The crystalline spires that once reached toward the sky are snapped like broken bones. The meditation gardens where Padawans learn to touch the Force are scorched black. The archives containing 10,000 years of Jedi wisdom are ash and smoke. Darth Malak's bombardment was thorough. He wanted to erase not just the Jedi, but their history. But he failed. Beneath the rubble, in a sub-level that survived the orbital strike, you have found something. A hidden chamber. The air here tastes old, untouched for decades, maybe centuries. Your lightsaber provides the only illumination, casting long shadows across walls covered in ancient inscriptions. The writing is not basic, not even old galactic. It is Sith, pure Sith script, carved into the walls of a Jedi enclave. How long has this chamber been here? What was the Council hiding beneath their temple of light? On a pedestal in the center of the room sits a holocron, not the elegant pyramidal shape of Jedi holocrons. This one is jagged, crimson, pulsing with a faint dark side energy that makes your skin crawl. But there is something else. Wrapped around it, suppressing its darkness, is a Jedi beacon, light side and dark side, locked together in eternal tension. You are not alone in this discovery. Master Atrus emerges from the shadows behind you. Her pale robes are dusty from the ruins. Her expression is unreadable, but her eyes are fixed on the holocron with an intensity that borders on hunger. Atrus was once one of the Council's most vocal members, rigid in her adherence to the code, judgmental of those who strayed. But since the war ended, something has changed in her. She has been collecting Sith artifacts, obsessively. She calls it preservation. You call it dangerous. Behind her, a younger man descends the ruined stairs. Mystical, the disciple, barely out of his Padawan years, earnest and intelligent, with the eager energy of someone who still believes the Jedi are the heroes of every story. Mystical speaks first, his voice echoing softly in the chamber. He has been searching the ruins for weeks, cataloging what survived, mourning what did not. He thought he knew every corner of this enclave. He trained here as a child before the Council sent him away, deeming him too curious, too questioning for the rigid structure they demanded. But this chamber, he had never seen this. Atrices moves toward the holocron without hesitation. Her hand hovers above it, trembling slightly. You can feel the conflict radiating from her through the Force, desire and fear locked in combat. She wants the knowledge inside, desperately, but she knows what it means to open a Sith holocron. The darkness does not simply share information, it seduces, it corrupts. It finds the cracks in your certainty and pries them open until you cannot remember who you were before. You step between her and the artifact. Your voice is calm, but firm. The Council already exiled or executed every Jedi who fought in the Mandalorian Wars. They mind-wiped Revan. They pretend the last decade never happened. Whatever is in this holocron, whatever the Council was hiding, it cannot be buried again. Not if the Order has any hope of learning from its failures. Atrices' eyes meet yours. For a moment you see something break behind them. A dam holding back years of doubt and suppressed questions. She nods slowly and steps back. Mystical kneels beside the pedestal, examining the Jedi beacon wrapped around the holocron. His fingers trace the ancient mechanism with the careful precision of a scholar. This beacon is old, he murmurs, older than the Enclave itself, pre-Republic era. Maybe even from the time of the Sith Empire's first conflict with the Jedi. Whoever placed this here did not want the holocron destroyed. They wanted it contained, locked away, but preserved. Why, you ask? Why not destroy it completely? Because someone knew we would need it. Atrus answers quietly. Someone knew that one day the truth it contains would be the only thing that could save us. The three of you work in silence, carefully dismantling the beacon without triggering the holocron. The Force hums around you, heavy with anticipation and warning. When the final seal releases, the holocron flares to life. But instead of the expected voice of a Sith Lord, what emerges is far stranger. An image projects above the artifact. Not a Sith, but a Jedi. Ancient robes, weathered face, eyes heavy with the weight of terrible knowledge. You recognize him from your studies. Master Odan the the legendary Jedi chronicler who lived over 4,000 years ago during the Great Hyperspace War, when the Sith Empire first invaded Republic space. His recorded voice fills the chamber. If you are seeing this, then the cycle has begun again. The darkness I witnessed consuming entire star systems has returned, or will soon return. You must understand what I could not make the council of my time accept. The Sith are not simply fallen Jedi. They are something older, something that predates our order by millennia. The image shifts, showing scenes of devastation, worlds burning, fleets of strange angular ships emerging from hyperspace, massive pyramidal vessels raining fire on Republic colonies. This is the Great Hyperspace War, a conflict most modern Jedi know only from sanitized historical texts. But LOTR's recording shows the truth they omit. The invasion was not random. The Sith Lord Naga Sadow did not stumble upon Republic space by accident. He was testing, probing defenses, measuring the strength of the Jedi Order and the Republic military. And when he was driven back, he did not retreat in defeat. He withdrew with intelligence, with data, with everything he needed to prepare for the next attempt. I traveled to Korriban after the war ended. LOTR continues. Against the Council's orders, I entered the tombs of the ancient Sith Lords. What I found there haunts me still. The Sith are not driven by passion or ambition alone. They serve something older, an entity, a presence in the Force so saturated with the dark side that it has achieved a form of immortality. The image flickers, showing the interior of a massive tomb, walls covered in inscriptions written in the angular Sith language. LOTR's voice drops to barely a whisper. They call him the Sith Ari, the perfect being, one who will lead the Sith to victory over the Jedi and bring about the destruction of the Force itself, remaking it in darkness absolute. I brought this knowledge to the Council. I begged them to investigate, to prepare, to acknowledge that the Sith Empire did not die with Naga Sadow. It simply went dormant, waiting. But they refused. They called me paranoid, corrupted by my exposure to dark side artifacts. They ordered this holocron sealed and hidden, and they commanded me never to speak of what I learned on Korriban. So I hid the truth here, in a place I knew the Order would maintain for generations. If you have found this, then events have unfolded that prove my warnings were justified. The Sith have returned. Perhaps not in the form I witnessed, but the cycle continues, and you must do what my generation would not. You must seek the complete truth, no matter how terrible. The image of LOTR fades, replaced by coordinates. Hyperspace routes to locations scattered across the galaxy. Korriban, Yavin 4, Malachor, Dromund Kaddus. Names that send chills through any Jedi who knows their history. Worlds touched by the dark side so deeply that they remain wounds in the Force millennia after the events that scarred them. But there is one more location, one that means nothing to you. Lehan. No historical record you have ever studied mentions this world, yet LOTR marked it as the most critical destination, the place where the true origin of the cycle can be found. Miracle is already pulling up star charts on a portable datapad, cross-referencing the coordinates. His face goes pale. These locations, some of them are not in any modern navigation database. They have been deliberately removed from Republic records. Someone has been erasing information about these worlds for thousands of years. Atrice stands, her decision made. The Council will not help us. They will actively oppose any attempt to investigate this. After what they did to Revan, after the exile of every Jedi who questioned their authority, they have proven they value control over truth. If we pursue this, we do so alone. We will be marked as heretics, possibly hunted. You feel the weight of the choice settling on your shoulders. Your master, the Jedi who trained you, died during the Jedi Civil War, not in battle. She died because she tried to warn the Council about something she discovered. something about Revan's true motives for going to war. They silenced her, called it a training accident. But you knew the truth. You have always known. This is why you became a historian instead of a warrior. Not to fight, but to preserve, to ensure that truths too uncomfortable for the Council to acknowledge are not lost forever. You look at the holocron, still glowing with residual energy, then at Artress, her face set in grim determination, at Meshakel, young and terrified but refusing to back down. We leave at dawn, you say. We follow Odan Ur's path, Korriban first. If the ancient Sith tombs hold answers about this cycle, about what the Council has been hiding, then we face whatever darkness waits there. Because the alternative is watching the galaxy burn again, and this time, there may be no Revan to save it, even if it costs him everything he was. The three of you begin preparations, gathering supplies, plotting routes, knowing you are stepping off a cliff into darkness. But in the ruins of the Dantooine Enclave, surrounded by the ashes of Jedi who chose ignorance over truth, you make a choice. You will know, whatever the cost. The holocron pulses one final time before going dark, and in that moment you swear you feel something vast and ancient turn its attention toward you from across the galaxy. Something that has been waiting a very long time for someone to start asking the right questions. Dawn breaks over Dantooine with the kind of beauty that makes you ache. Twin suns rising over endless grasslands, turning the plains golden. Kintrath spiders retreat to their caves. Herds of Iriaz graze peacefully in the distance, unaware that three Jedi are about to leave on a journey that may unravel the very foundations of their order. The Ebon Hawk sits in a clearing near the ruined enclave. You recognize the ship immediately. Everyone in the galaxy who follows the news recognizes this vessel. This is Revan's ship, the legendary freighter that carried him across the galaxy during the Jedi Civil War. After his disappearance into the unknown regions, the ship was found drifting near the Lesson system, abandoned and damaged. The Republic impounded it, studied it, then quietly left it here on Dantooine, too famous to destroy, too dangerous to let anyone claim. But Atris has connections, or perhaps obsessions. She has been maintaining the Hawk in secret, keeping it flight-ready for reasons she never fully explained. Now those reasons become clear. She knew this day would come, the day when seeking truth would require fleeing the Order itself. The interior of the Hawk feels haunted, not by ghosts, but by history. Every surface tells a story. Blast scoring on the bulkheads from battles over the Starforge, repair patches from encounters with Sith fighters. In the crew quarters, you find personal belongings left behind, a Mandalorian helmet, a Wookiee's toolkit, a meditation mat that still carries the faint Force signature of its owner. These were Revan's companions, the unlikely crew that helped him defeat Malak and destroy the Starforge. Where are they now? Scattered, silent. The Council made sure of that. No one who traveled with Revan was allowed to speak freely about what they witnessed, what they learned about his true motives. Mekel runs pre-flight checks while Atris loads supplies. You stand in the cockpit, hands resting on the pilot controls that Revan himself once held. The Navicomputer contains thousands of logged hyperspace routes. Most are standard, trade lanes, Republic worlds, but buried deep in the system, protected by encryption. You spend an hour breaking, you find them. Secret routes, paths to worlds that do not appear on any official star chart, and among them, the first destination Odan Ur's holocron specified, Korriban, the Sith homeworld. Even typing the coordinates into the Navicomputer feels like a transgression. Korriban has been officially quarantined by the Republic for over 1,000 years, forbidden to civilians, monitored by Republic forces. Any Jedi found traveling there without Council authorization faces immediate expulsion and arrest. The official reason is preventing Sith artifacts from falling into the wrong hands. But you suspect the truth is simpler. The Council does not want anyone seeing what is actually there. Evidence of how deeply the Jedi and Sith have been intertwined throughout history. Proof that the line between light and dark is far thinner than the code admits. The Hawk's engines rumble to life. The sound is familiar from 100 holovids and news reports, but experiencing it firsthand, feeling the vibration through the deck plates, knowing you are sitting in a ship that witnessed the galaxy's most recent transformation, it hits differently. As Dantooine falls away beneath you, Michael joins you in the cockpit. His face is troubled. He has been reviewing the data LOTR's holocron provided. The historical accounts of the Great Hyperspace War do not match what we were taught. The official Jedi records claim Naga Sadow was defeated decisively, that his invasion was a desperate gambit by a dying Sith Empire. But according to LOTR's, the Sith forces withdrew strategically. They were never trying to conquer. They were gathering intelligence. You have studied enough history to know what that means. The war 4,000 years ago was not an ending. It was reconnaissance, a prelude to something larger. How long have the Council known? Michael asks quietly. How many generations of Jedi Masters have passed down these lies, knowing the truth was hidden in places like that chamber beneath Dantooine? Atris enters the cockpit before you can answer. Her presence fills the small space with barely contained intensity. She has changed from her formal Jedi robes into practical traveling clothes, but she carries herself with the same rigid authority. Every Jedi Council member knew, she says flatly. Not the details perhaps, but they knew LOTR discovered something on Korriban that terrified him. They knew his warnings, and they chose institutional stability over truth. She sits in the co-pilot seat, her hands gripping the armrests. I was part of that system. I voted to exile Jedi who fought in the Mandalorian Wars. I argued for Revan's mind to be wiped rather than face trial. I told myself we were protecting the Order, maintaining peace, but we were just cowards, afraid of questions we could not answer. The Hawk jumps to hyperspace. The stars stretch into lines, and the galaxy blurs into the familiar blue tunnel of faster-than-light travel. The journey to Korriban will take 18 hours. 18 hours to prepare yourselves for what you will find in the Valley of the Dark Lords. During the flight, you explore the ship more thoroughly. In the medical bay, you find records of treatments, injuries sustained during battles you recognize from history. The assault on the Starforge, the confrontation with Malak, but there are older records too, treatments from before Revan's capture by the Jedi, when he was still Darth Revan, Dark Lord of the Sith. One entry catches your attention, a medical scan of Revan's brain after the Jedi Council's intervention. The procedure they used was not a simple memory wipe. It was a complete personality reconstruction. They did not just erase his memories, they rewrote who he was at a fundamental level, created a new person in the shell of the old. Is that redemption, you wonder, or murder? In the cargo hold, Michael discovers something that changes everything. A secured locker, protected by a biometric lock keyed to Revan's DNA. It should be impossible to open, but Revan left a bypass, as if he knew someone would come looking. As if he wanted certain truths to survive, even if he did not. Inside the locker is a data pad, personal logs recorded by Revan during his campaign as a Sith Lord. His voice, preserved in audio files, explains everything the Council tried to erase. The three of you gather around the data pad in the common area. Atris hesitates before activating it. Once we hear this, there is no going back. We will know what the Council did not want us to know. You press play. Revan's voice fills the ship, calm, rational, nothing like the monster the official histories describe. This is my testimony. If you are hearing it, then I have failed. The Jedi Council has either killed me or destroyed my mind, but the truth must survive. The Mandalorian Wars were not what they seemed. I did not fall to the dark side through corruption or ambition. I fell because I learned what is waiting in the unknown regions, an enemy so powerful that the only way to defeat it was to become something powerful enough to stand against it. I became a Sith Lord to save the Republic, and I pray to the Force that my sacrifice was not in vain. The recording cuts off. The three of you sit in silence as the Hawk hurtles through hyperspace toward Korriban, toward answers that will shatter everything you thought you knew. And somewhere ahead in the darkness, the ancient tombs of the Sith wait to reveal their secrets. Korriban emerges from hyperspace like a wound in the fabric of reality. The planet hangs against the black void, rust red and lifeless. No atmosphere worth breathing, no vegetation, nothing but endless deserts of red sand and the ruins of an empire that should have died millennia ago, but refuses to stay buried. A Trice pilots the Hawk into a low orbit, scanning for Republic monitoring stations. She finds none. The quarantine is a lie, just like everything else. No one is watching this world. No one is preventing access. The Council simply counts on fear and obedience to keep Jedi away. That strategy ends today. The ship descends through thin atmosphere, its shields glowing from friction. Below, the Valley of the Dark Lords spreads across kilometers of desolate terrain. Massive tombs carved into cliff faces, each one a monument to a Sith Lord whose power was so great their names still echo through history. Marka Ragnos, Tulak Horde, Ajunta Pal, Ludo Kresh, Naga Sado himself. These are not mere graves. They are fortresses, temples, places where the dark side of the Force pools and concentrates like poison in a wound. The Hawk lands on a flat stretch of hardpan near the valley entrance. The moment the boarding ramp lowers, the dark side hits you like a physical force, oppressive, hungry, whispering at the edges of your perception in languages you do not understand but somehow comprehend. Turn back. Join us. Surrender. Despair. Makikal staggers, his face going pale. He is young, less experienced with shielding his mind from external Force influences. You place a steadying hand on his shoulder, guiding him through the mental techniques every Jedi learns. Center yourself. The darkness cannot touch you unless you let it. It feeds on fear and desire. Give it neither. Itris is already walking toward the tombs, her lightsaber unignited but ready in her hand. She has been here before. You realize her movements are too confident, too familiar. How many times has she come to Korriban in secret, telling herself she was preserving history while she accumulated Sith artifacts like trophies? The first tomb you enter belongs to a Junta Pol. The name alone should mean nothing to most Jedi. A footnote in ancient history, but Odin U-Uz Holocron specifically mentioned him, the first, the original, the one who began everything. The entrance is a massive stone archway, carved with inscriptions in High Galactic, predating even the old Sith language. The translation makes your blood cold. Here lies a Junta Pal, who was once a Jedi Knight, who mastered the dark side and became the first Dark Lord of the Sith, who led the exiles to Korriban and forged an empire from blood and betrayal. All who enter despair. For this is what becomes of those who seek power beyond the teachings of the light. Once a Jedi Knight. The historical texts never mentioned that. The Order teaches that the Sith are an ancient evil that the Jedi rose to oppose. Good versus evil, light versus dark, simple and clean. But this inscription tells a different story. The Sith were not always the enemy. They were Jedi who asked different questions, who explored paths the Council forbade, who were exiled not for falling, but for refusing to obey. Inside the tomb, the air is stale and cold. Your breath mists in front of your face, despite Korriban's desert heat. The walls are covered in murals depicting battles, rituals, acts of power that blur the line between awe-inspiring and horrifying. In one image, Jedi and Sith stand side by side, their lightsabers raised not against each other, but against a common threat. Something massive, something ancient, something the artist could only render as a void in the shape of hunger. Timical moves along the walls, recording everything with his datapad. His scholar instincts have overcome his fear. These murals predate the Sith Empire. They show the exile period. 7,000 years ago, the 100-year darkness, when dark side practitioners were cast out of the Jedi Order and fled into unknown space. Atreides finds the central chamber where Ajunta Pal's sarcophagus should rest, but the tomb has been opened. Recently, the stone lid lies shattered on the floor. The body is gone, or was never there. In its place, a holocron sits waiting. Its surface is covered in cracks, its glow flickering and unstable, damaged but functional. You reach for it, and the moment your fingers touch the ancient metal, the holocron activates. But what emerges is not a teaching or a philosophy. It is a warning. The image of Ajunta Pal appears, or what remains of him. His form is translucent, barely holding coherence. His voice crackles with static and interference. I am bound here, my essence trapped by rituals I thought I mastered, but I was a fool. We were all fools. We thought we were exploring the dark side. We thought we were expanding the understanding of the Force, but we were not exploring. We were being led. The image flickers. Pal's face contorts with ancient anguish. When the Jedi Council exiled us for studying forbidden techniques, we fled beyond known space. We wandered for years until we found Korriban, a world inhabited by a primitive species who called themselves Sith. They worshipped the dark side like a god, and in their temples we found texts, knowledge, secrets that predated the Jedi Order by millennia. We thought we had discovered something, but we had been discovered. The knowledge on Korriban was not abandoned or lost. It was bait, left by something older, something that has been manipulating Force users for longer than the Republic has existed. The holocron glitches, the image breaking apart. Pal's voice becomes desperate. We enslaved the Sith species, used their worship to build an empire, crowned ourselves Dark Lords, but we were the slaves all along. Slaves to hunger, to ambition, to the whispers that promised power, but delivered only chains. If you are Jedi, turn back. If you have come seeking the origins of the Sith, know that you are seeking something that seeks you in return. The darkness on Korriban is not remnant. It is patient. It has been waiting for new students, new vessels, new fools who think they can control what has controlled every Force user who ever stood where you stand now. The image stabilizes one final time. Ajunta Pal's eyes meet yours across 4,000 years of death and regret. I was the first Dark Lord of the Sith, but I was not the first to fall. There were others before us, others who came to Korriban and never left. Their names are forgotten. Their warnings ignored. Do not make our mistake. Some knowledge destroys those who seek it. The holocron goes dark, permanent this time, its final power exhausted, delivering a message across millennia. The three of you stand in silence. Milkel is shaking. Adris has gone very still, her face unreadable. You feel the weight of realization settling into your bones. The Sith were not born from ambition or corruption. They were manufactured, cultivated. Someone or something has been creating dark side users for thousands of years, feeding them knowledge, watching them rise and fall, using them for purposes you cannot yet comprehend. And the Jedi Council knew. They had to know. Orden O brought them this information 4,000 years ago. How many other Jedi discovered the same truth in the centuries since? How many warnings were ignored or suppressed? Atris speaks, her voice hollow. We need to see the other tombs. If Ajunta Pal's holocron survived, there may be others. We need more information before we can understand what we are facing. But Meshiel is backing toward the exit, his eyes wide. Do you not see? This is exactly what Pal warned against. We came here seeking truth, and the darkness is already working on us, making us rationalize going deeper. One more tomb, one more holocron, one more step down a path that has consumed everyone who walked it before us. He is right, and he is wrong, because the alternative is returning to ignorance, letting the cycle continue, waiting for the next Revan, the next war, the next catastrophe. You make the choice, we continue, but carefully, we document everything. We trust each other to recognize if the darkness begins influencing our judgment, and if any of us starts to fall, the others pull them back, no matter what it takes. The three of you exit Ajunta Pal's tomb and stand once more in the Valley of the Dark Lords. 5 more tombs wait, 5 more chances to uncover the truth, or 5 more opportunities for the darkness to claim you. Above, Korriban's red sun beats down without mercy, and in the tombs around you something ancient stirs, aware now that seekers have returned to its domain. Watching, waiting, hungry. 3 days on Korriban changes you in ways that cannot be measured. The dark side seeps into your bones like cold water. You dream of battles you never fought, speak words in languages you never learned, wake gasping from visions of power and glory that feel more like memories than fantasies. Mitchell has stopped sleeping entirely. He sits in the Hawk's common area through the night cycles, reviewing recordings of the tombs, cross-referencing inscriptions with historical texts, building a picture of Sith history that becomes clearer and more terrible with each connection he makes. Atris meditates constantly, or tries to. You watch her sometimes through the viewport, sitting alone in the red sand outside the ship, her posture rigid with concentration. She is fighting something. A battle invisible to the eye, but evident in every tense line of her body. The artifacts she collected over the years have marked her, left hooks in her mind that the darkness of Korriban keeps pulling. You have explored 5 of the major tombs now. Each one reveals another piece of the puzzle. In Tulak Horde's tomb, you found training manuals for lightsaber techniques that the modern Jedi have completely forgotten. Forms that blend offense and defense in ways the Council would call too aggressive, too close to giving in to passion. In Marka Ragnos's tomb, murals depicted the Great Hyperspace War in detail the Republic histories omit. You saw images of Republic worlds burning, but also images of Sith, supply lines stretched impossibly thin, an empire overextending itself. Not a conquest, but a raid. A test of defenses exactly as Odan claimed. In Ludo Kresh's tomb, you discovered something that shifted your understanding entirely. A collection of star charts showing hyperspace routes into the unknown regions, routes that predate the Republic's exploration of those sectors by thousands of years. Someone mapped those routes long before the Sith Empire even existed. Someone knew what was out there in the darkness beyond known space. And in Naga Sado's tomb, the last you explored, you found his personal holocron. Unlike Ajunta Pal's damage warning, this one functioned perfectly. Sado appeared as he must have been in life, proud, ambitious, absolutely convinced of his own brilliance. His teachings focused on manipulation, how to turn enemies against each other, how to use fear and chaos as weapons more effective than any fleet, how to make your opponents destroy themselves while you remain hidden in shadow. He spoke of the Jedi Order with contempt, but also with understanding. He knew how they thought, how they would react, how their rigid adherence to dogma made them predictable. But beneath the arrogance, you detected something else. Sado was afraid. His invasion of Republic space was not conquest. It was escape. He was running from something in the unknown regions that terrified even a Dark Lord of the Sith, powerful enough to command an empire. Now the three of you gather in the Hawks conference room, surrounded by data, trying to make sense of what you have learned. Miracle presents his analysis with the careful precision of a scholar who has found an answer he wishes he could unsee. The pattern is clear. Every Sith Lord who rose to power did so by accessing knowledge that predated their era. Ajunta Pal found texts on Korriban left by someone before the Sith species even evolved. Marco Ragnar studied those same texts and expanded on them. Naga Sado took that accumulated knowledge and used it to build an empire, each generation standing on the shoulders of the previous. But none of them created the foundation. They only built on what was already there. Atrices nods slowly. The conclusion is inescapable. The dark side corrupts. That is its nature. Every Jedi who has ever fallen did so because they believed they could control the darkness, use it without being used. But the darkness is patient. It does not need to corrupt quickly. It works across generations, across millennia. It turns the strongest and most talented Jedi into Sith Lords, then watches as they destroy themselves and everything around them. The answer seems so obvious, so complete. The cycle exists because Force users keep making the same mistake. They seek power beyond what the light side offers. They convince themselves they are strong enough to wield darkness without consequence, and every single time they are wrong. Mikkel closes his datapad, looking exhausted. So the Council was right. Not in their methods perhaps, not in hiding the truth or mind-wiping Revan, but in their fundamental philosophy. Separation from the dark side is the only protection. The moment you start studying it, even with good intentions, you have already begun to fall. You want to agree. The evidence supports it. Every tomb you explored told the same story. Jedi who thought they were different, special, strong enough to master what had destroyed everyone before them, and every one of them became a monster. Even Revan, especially Revan. He claimed he fell intentionally, that he became a Sith Lord to prepare the Republic for a greater threat. But is that truth or rationalization? Did he really maintain control while conquering half the galaxy? Or did he tell himself comfortable lies while the darkness consumed him, just like Ajunta Pal and all the others? But something nags at you. A detail that does not fit the neat conclusion you have built. You pull up the star charts found in Ludo Crash's tomb, overlaying them with known Republic space. The routes into the unknown regions do not explore randomly. They target specific sectors, specific worlds, as if whoever created these maps knew exactly what they would find there. And there is something else. In every tomb, you found evidence of regular visits, not ancient disturbances but recent ones. Within the last decade, someone has been coming to Korriban, studying the same tombs, following the same path you are walking now. Revan. It had to be Revan. The dates align with the Mandalorian Wars. He came here before his fall, before he put on the mask. He studied the Sith tombs, learned what you have learned, and drew conclusions that led him to wage war on the Republic itself. Atris sees where your thoughts are going and shakes her head firmly. Do not make excuses for him. I knew Revan before he left for war. He was brilliant, charismatic, stronger in the Force than anyone I had ever met, but he was also proud, convinced that he alone could see truths others missed. That pride made him vulnerable. The darkness used it to turn him into Darth Revan. Everything he did after that was corruption, not strategy. Yet doubt lingers. If the pattern is so simple, If every Jedi who studies the dark side inevitably falls, then why do the Sith keep failing? Why has no Dark Lord ever achieved permanent victory? They have had millennia, thousands of years to perfect their power, but they always lose, always destroy themselves before they can finish what they start. Unless that is the point. The thought arrives like a lightning strike. What if the Sith are not trying to win? What if they are not the true enemy, but another layer of deception? Pawns in a game they do not even realize they are playing. You voice the thought aloud, and watch both Atris and Malkal react. Atris with immediate dismissal, Malkal with thoughtful consideration. That is paranoia, Atris says. You are inventing complexity where simple truth exists. The dark side corrupts. The Sith fall. The cycle continues because Force users have free will, and some will always choose darkness. There is no grand conspiracy, no hidden manipulator, just the eternal struggle between light and dark. But Makeshal is reviewing data again, his fingers flying across the datapad. Wait, the star charts. The ones showing routes into unknown regions. I just noticed something. They are not exploration maps. They are return routes, as if someone from the unknown regions created them to find their way back to known space, back to Korriban specifically. The temperature in the room seems to drop. Outside the Hawk, Korriban's endless red desert stretches toward the horizon. And somewhere in the tombs, in the shadows between ancient stones, you feel something shift. Not the passive dark side energy that saturates this world. Something active, aware, watching. You have reached a conclusion. The wrong conclusion. And whatever is watching knows it, wants you to believe it, wants you to think you understand, so you will stop asking questions. But you are not done asking. Not yet. The jungle moon of Yavin 4 is everything. Korriban is not. Where the Sith homeworld is dead and barren, Yavin 4 explodes with life. Massive trees soar hundreds of meters into humid air thick with the calls of strange creatures. Bioluminescent fungi cast everything in shades of blue and green. The Force here feels wild, untamed, ancient in a way that has nothing to do with the Jedi or Sith. But beneath that primal vitality, you sense the scar, a wound left by Exar Kun 4 decades ago, when he transformed this moon into his fortress. When he used Sith alchemy to twist the primitive Masasi species into monsters, when he waged war on the Jedi Order and came terrifyingly close to destroying it completely. The Ebon Hawk settles into a clearing near the largest temple complex. Massive step pyramids rise above the jungle canopy, covered in vines but still structurally intact. The Republic declared Yavin 4 off limits after the Great Sith War, but like Korriban, no one actually enforces the restriction. The Council trusts fear to keep people away. Atris leads you through the undergrowth toward the main temple. She moves with purpose. She has been here before too. How many forbidden worlds has she visited in her obsession with preserving Sith knowledge? How close did she come to falling herself before whatever restraint she possesses pulled her back? The temple entrance is carved with images of the Masasi in their original form, tall, proud, primitive but intelligent. The contrast with what Exar Kun transformed them into makes your stomach turn. He stripped their sentience, turned them into berserkers who knew only violence and worship of their dark master, all in the name of building an army to conquer the galaxy. Inside, the temple is cooler, but no less oppressive. The dark side clings to every surface like oil. Your footsteps echo off stone walls covered in Sith inscriptions. Exar Kun's work, his philosophy etched into the temple he claimed as his seat of power. But as you move deeper, you find older inscriptions beneath his, much older, pre-Republic era. And the language is not Sith. Mesical stops at one wall, running his fingers across symbols that predate any written language in the Republic database. I have seen this script before, in the archives on Dantooine. There was a single fragment, catalogued as unknown origin. The notation said it was found on a world called Lehon. Lehon, the name from Ordan Or's holocron, the world he marked as most critical, the place where the true origin of the cycle could be found. Itris pulls a portable scanner from her pack, documenting the inscriptions. If this same writing exists on both Yavin 4 and Leon, it suggests a civilization that spanned multiple star systems, a pre-Republic empire that left monuments across the galaxy. But there is no record of such a civilization in any historical archive I have ever accessed. Because the records were erased, you say, just like the star charts, someone has been systematically removing information about certain aspects of galactic history, making it nearly impossible to connect the patterns unless you physically travel to these forbidden worlds and see the evidence yourself. You continue through the temple, finding chamber after chamber that Exar Kun converted to his purposes. Meditation rooms where he studied Sith holocrons, libraries where he collected forbidden texts, ritual spaces where he performed acts of alchemy that twisted flesh and spirit into abominations. But in the deepest chamber, you find something Exar Kun did not create. A vault, ancient, sealed with mechanisms that have nothing to do with Sith technology. The door is covered in the same script you found on the walls, and beside it, a control panel that still functions after thousands of years. Bannical studies the mechanism with growing excitement. This is not primitive technology. This is more advanced than anything the Republic currently produces. Whoever built this had mastery of energy systems we are only beginning to understand. It takes hours to bypass the security, not because the technology is difficult, but because it is so far beyond current understanding that you have to work by trial and error. But finally, the vault opens, and inside you find them. Star maps. Not charts carved in stone or recorded on datacrons. These are holographic projections built into pedestals that activate the moment you enter. Three-dimensional representations of the galaxy with detail and accuracy that should be impossible for their age, and highlighted in each map specific locations, worlds that hold similar vaults, similar star maps. Dantooine, Tatooine, 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 Kashyyyk, Manaan, Korriban. And at the center, where all the maps converge, a world labeled only with coordinates. Lehon, the Rakata homeworld. Atrice stares at the projections, her face illuminated by their glow. I know what this is. I have read accounts from Revan's crew after he defeated Malak. After the Starforge was destroyed, there were rumors, stories about an ancient alien species called the Rakata, an empire that ruled the galaxy thousands of years before the Republic. They supposedly created the Starforge, a space station capable of producing infinite fleets using the dark side of the Force. The pieces start falling into place. Revan did not just stumble upon the Starforge. He followed the same path you are following now, found the star maps, traveled to Lehon, discovered technology so powerful that it gave him the means to wage war on a galactic scale. But why? If the Starforge was just a weapon, if Revan fell to simple ambition, then why leave the star maps accessible? Why not destroy them to prevent anyone from following? Unless he wanted someone to follow. Unless he left a trail for those brave or foolish enough to seek the truth he found. You make the decision immediately. We go to Lehon now. Whatever Revan discovered there, whatever turned him from Jedi into Sith Lord into something else entirely, we need to understand it. The journey to learn takes 3 days. 3 days of reviewing everything you have learned. 3 days of watching Atris grow more withdrawn and Michael more obsessed. 3 days of feeling the weight of terrible knowledge settling into your mind like stones. Leon emerges from hyperspace as a blue jewel against the black. Oceans cover most of the surface with scattered islands breaking through like emeralds. Beautiful, pristine, completely abandoned according to all Republic records. But as the Hawk enters atmosphere, you see the ruins, massive structures on the largest island, architecture that makes Republic engineering look like children's toys, temples that dwarf anything on Yavin 4 and on the northern coast, the shattered remains of something truly massive, a space station, broken, crashed into the ocean, pieces of it jutting from the water like the bones of a dead god. The Star Forge, or what remains of it after Revan destroyed it. You land near the largest intact structure, a temple complex that dominates the island's central plateau, and as you disembark, you feel it. The Force here is different, not dark, not light, something older than that distinction, raw, primal. The way the Force must have felt before sentient beings started categorizing and controlling it. The temple entrance is open, waiting and standing just inside, inactive but intact. You find it, a droid, ancient design, covered in patina, but still functional. As you approach, it powers on, its optical sensors glow with light that has not shone for millennia. A voice emerges from its speakers, Rakata language. Michael's datapad translates in real time. Greetings, visitors. I am designated Elder. I have been waiting many cycles for someone to return to this place. The last who came, the one you call Revan, left instructions. He said others would follow. He said they must be told the truth. Your heart pounds. This droid met Revan, spoke with him, knows what he learned. Tell us, you say. Tell us what Revan discovered. Tell us why he became what he became. The droid's optical sensors flicker, accessing historical files. The Rakata were the first. The Infinite Empire. We spanned the galaxy 30,000 years before your Republic. We achieved technological supremacy through mastery of the Force. We built the Star Forge. We enslaved species. We conquered worlds. We were gods. But gods can fall. The dark side, we used to build our empire, consumed us. Civil war, plague, collapse. In 3 generations, the Infinite Empire died. Our technology failed. Our people regressed to primitiveness. Only machines like myself remained to remember what we were. But before the fall, our greatest minds detected something. An anomaly in the unknown regions, a distortion in the Force so profound it registered on our instruments from across the galaxy. We sent expeditions, none returned. We sent fleets. They vanished, and then the collapse began. The droid moves closer. Your Revan came here seeking the Star Forge. He found it, but he also found our records. He learned what we learned, that the anomaly still exists, that it has been growing stronger, that every major galactic conflict for the past 30,000 years traces back to its influence. The Sith do not drive the cycle. They are symptoms of it, manifestations of a deeper corruption that has been manipulating Force users since before the Jedi Order existed. And Revan realized the only way to fight such a threat was to become powerful enough in the dark side to resist its control, to use the enemy's weapons against them. He took the title of Dark Lord, not from corruption, but from terrible necessity. The droid's voice drops to barely a whisper. He asked me to tell you one more thing. If you have come this far, if you have learned what he learned, then you face the same choice he faced. Become a monster to fight monsters, or watch the galaxy fall to something far worse than any Sith Lord. And he said to tell you this. It was not enough. Whatever he did, wherever he went, it was not enough to stop what is coming. The jungle around you is silent. Even the animals seem to sense the weight of what has been revealed. A Trice sits heavily on a fallen pillar. Mikkel is shaking, and you stand there, understanding finally clicking into place like the pieces of a puzzle you wish you had never started. There is something in the unknown regions, something that has been there for tens of thousands of years, and it is coming. Some wounds never heal. They fester, they spread, they become something worse than the injury that created them. Malachor 5 is such a wound, not just in flesh or stone, but in the Force itself. The planet should not exist. By every law of physics, the mass shadow generator should have torn it apart completely. Instead, it left Malachor 5 in a state of perpetual dying. The surface is a shattered hellscape of cracked plates and floating debris. Gravity fluctuates wildly. The sky is an eternal storm of dark side energy, visible even from orbit. Hatris refuses to pilot the Hawk down. Her hands shake on the controls. She has come far with you. Crossed lines she swore never to cross. But this place breaks something in her. I cannot. I was there during the vote, when the Council decided to exile every Jedi who fought at Malachor. We called them failures. Weak, we said they fell to the dark side. But we were lying. We exiled them because they terrified us. Mikkel takes the controls. He was not there during the war, too young, but he studied under masters who spoke of Malachor in whispers, who woke screaming from dreams of what happened in the final battle. His hands are steady as he guides the Hawk through the gravitational chaos. You descend through layers of debris, ships, the thousands of them, Republic and Mandalorian vessels locked together in their final moments. Frozen in time by whatever the mass shadow generator did, bodies still visible in viewports, soldiers who died instantly when gravity crushed them, or slowly when their ships lost power and life support failed. This was not a battle. This was an execution. And the exile, the Jedi Knight who activated the superweapon, killed friend and enemy alike, murdered thousands of their own comrades to ensure victory. The Hawk lands on what might have been a mountain before the cataclysm. The ground is unstable. Every step risks falling through into chasms that drop into the planet's broken core. The air is toxic. The dark side is so concentrated here that it manifests physically. Shadows that move without light to cast them. Whispers that promise power to anyone desperate or mad enough to listen. And rising from the shattered surface, impossibly intact, is the Treyas Academy. You recognize it from historical accounts, the Sith Academy that Revan ordered built here. But as you approach, you see the truth. Revan did not build this place. He excavated it. The Academy predates the Mandalorian Wars, predates the Republic. The architecture matches the Rakata temples on Lehon. This was already here, waiting, and Revan knew it. The entrance to the Academy is a doorway into concentrated darkness, not metaphorical, actual absence of light that devours photons. Your lightsaber provides no illumination inside. Only the Force allows you to navigate, and what you sense makes your blood cold. This place is alive, not with organic life, but with accumulated suffering. Every being who died at Malachor, every soldier who perished when the mass shadow generator tore reality apart, left an imprint, an echo in the Force, and the Academy gathered those echoes, fed on them, grew stronger. The interior is a maze of corridors lined with cells, training chambers, meditation rooms, all designed for one purpose: to break Jedi, to take followers of the light and transform them into servants of darkness through pain and despair. Matthew finds records in a side chamber, datapads left by instructors, training logs, progress reports on students, and the dates make you stagger. These records are from during the Mandalorian Wars, not after. Someone was running a Sith Academy here while Republic and Mandalorian forces fought and died above. Revan, Atris says quietly, She has followed you inside despite her fear. Revan built this. He was training Sith while still pretending to be a Jedi general. But that does not make sense. If Revan was already Sith during the war, why wait until after Malachor to reveal himself? Why continue the deception? You move deeper into the academy, following corridors that spiral down into the planet's crust, and in the central chamber you find her, or what remains of her. A holocron, unlike any you have encountered. This one feels almost alive, pulsing with intelligence and malice in equal measure. The moment you touch it, an image erupts into the space around you. Not a simple projection, but a full sensory illusion that makes you forget you are looking at a recording. An old woman appears, hunched, wrapped in tattered robes. Her face is a maze of wrinkles and scars, but her eyes burn with terrible intelligence. When she speaks, her voice scrapes like stone on stone. I am Kreia, Darth Trier, to those who knew me in darkness. And if you have come to Malachor seeking answers about Revan, know that I taught him everything he became. The illusion shifts. You see a younger Revan, no mask yet, just a Jedi Knight hungry for knowledge the Council refused to provide. Kreia standing before him in this very chamber, teaching, not the brutality the Sith are known for, but philosophy, questions without answers, challenges to assumptions. I taught him that the Force itself is a chain, that both Jedi and Sith are slaves to its will, that every action a Force user takes feeds the cycle of conflict, light and dark, locked in eternal struggle, and the only way to break free is to understand both so completely that you transcend the dichotomy. The illusion shows Revan leaving, going to war against the Mandalorians, and then returning, changed, harder. He had seen something in the unknown regions, learned something that terrified him, and he came to me with a plan so audacious I almost refused to help. He would fall, intentionally. Take the title of Dark Lord, build an army, conquer the Republic, but not to destroy it, to prepare it. He knew the true Sith Empire still existed beyond known space. He knew they were coming, and he knew the Republic as it existed. The Jedi, as they existed, could never survive the invasion. So he became their enemy, forced the Republic to militarize, forced the Jedi to fight, hardened the galaxy for the war he knew was inevitable. And Malachor was his test. The mass shadow generator was not just a weapon, it was an experiment. He wanted to see if a wound in the Force, a place where the dark side concentrated so intensely that it became something new, could serve as a defense. A wall against the dark side manipulations he knew the true Sith would use. The exile who activated the weapon was his instrument. A Jedi whose connection to the Force was so profound that severing it created echoes across the entire battle. Thousands died, and the exile, rather than dying, became something unprecedented. A wound in the Force, a void, a being who could exist without being touched by either light or dark. Kreia's face fills your vision. Revan's plan required monsters, required people willing to become what they hated, required sacrificing thousands to potentially save trillions. And when Malak betrayed him, when the Jedi captured him and destroyed his mind, the plan died with him. But before they took his memories, Revan came to me one final time. He left instructions, trails for others to follow. He knew someone eventually would ask the questions he asked, would seek the truths he sought, and he wanted that person to know the full truth. Not the sanitized version the Council teaches, not the demonized version the Republic believes. The real truth, that sometimes there are no good choices, only terrible ones and worse ones, and the bravest souls are those willing to damn themselves if it means saving others. The illusion fades. The holocron goes dark, and you stand in the ruins of the Traus Academy, surrounded by the echoes of thousands who died in an experiment designed to save a galaxy that would never know or appreciate the sacrifice. Atrice is weeping, silent tears running down her face. Madical looks lost, a scholar who built his worldview on clear moral lines, watching those lines dissolve into gray. And you understand now why the Council erased this. Why they exiled the Jedi who fought here, not because they fell, because they learned that righteousness is a luxury, that survival sometimes requires becoming the monster, that the Force is not the benevolent guide the Order pretends, but a harsh and unforgiving reality. Above you, the storm of dark side energy continues its eternal rage. Below, the shattered planet groans under its own broken weight. And somewhere in the unknown regions, the threat Revan gave everything to prepare for continues to grow. Watching, waiting, and now perhaps aware that someone has finally uncovered the truth. The journey back to the Ebon Hawk feels longer than it is. Every step through the Traus Academy's corridors is weighted with the knowledge you now carry. Atrice walks ahead, her shoulders rigid with tension. Mikkel follows in silence, his datapad clutched to his chest like a shield, and you bring up the rear, unable to shake the feeling that something in this place is watching you leave, disappointed perhaps that you are not staying, not surrendering to the whispers that promise power in exchange for just a little compromise. The Hawk's interior feels like sanctuary after the oppressive darkness of Malachor, clean air, stable gravity, light that comes from normal sources instead of manifestations of suffering. But the relief is temporary. You cannot run from what you have learned, cannot unlearn the truth about Revan's sacrifice and the Council's willful blindness. Atrice collapses into the co-pilot seat, her hands shaking as she initiates the ascent sequence. She does not look at you as she speaks. I condemned him when Revan returned from the Mandalorian Wars wearing that mask, claiming the title of Dark Lord. I stood before the Council and argued for his execution. I said he was beyond redemption, that the man we knew was dead, replaced by something monstrous, and they listened to me. They sent Bastila Shan's strike team to capture him. They destroyed his mind and rebuilt him as someone new. I helped them commit murder in the name of salvation. The Hawk breaks atmosphere, leaving Malachor's gravitational chaos behind. But the planet's dark side presence lingers. It will linger for millennia. Some wounds truly never heal. Middle begins organizing the data you have collected. Recordings from the tombs on Korriban, the Rakata star maps, Kreutzer's holocron testimony. He works with mechanical precision, but you can see his world collapsing behind his eyes. Everything he was taught, every principle the Order instilled, all of it built on foundations of sand. You need to contact someone who was there, who traveled with Revan after his mind was rewritten, who saw what he became when given a second chance at being a Jedi. Bastila Shan. The name carries weight. She was the key to everything. Her battle meditation turned the tide of conflicts. Her Force bond with Revan allowed the Council to track him, and after the Starforger's destruction, she disappeared with him into the unknown regions. The official story says she is on a classified mission, but you suspect the truth is simpler. She followed the man she loved into darkness, hoping to bring him back. Atrice knows how to contact her. Of course she does. For someone who claims to have severed ties with those who fought in the wars, she has maintained suspiciously thorough intelligence networks. She sends an encoded transmission to a relay station in the Outer Rim. Then you wait. 3 hours later, the response comes. Not a message, a set of coordinates, and a timestamp. Bastila will meet you, but only in person, only somewhere neutral. The coordinates point to a space station orbiting a dead star in an uninhabited system. the kind of place smugglers use when they need to disappear. The journey takes 2 days. 2 days of processing what you have learned. 2 days of watching Atris wage an internal war between the Jedi she was trained to be and the person she is becoming. 2 days of helping Miskell reconcile scholarship with reality. On the second night, you find Atris alone in the meditation chamber. She is not meditating. She is holding a Sith holocron, one from her personal collection, just holding it, feeling its weight, its promise. "I understand now why they fall," she says, without looking up. It is not weakness, not corruption in the way we are taught. It is exhaustion. The code demands perfection, demands that we suppress every natural emotion, fear, anger, love. We are taught these feelings make us vulnerable to darkness. But suppression is not mastery, it is denial. And eventually, the denied parts of ourselves find expression, usually in the worst possible ways. She sets the holocron down, her hands steady now. I have been collecting these artifacts for years, telling myself I was preserving history. But the truth is, I was looking for answers the Council could not provide. Why do the best of us keep falling? Why does the Order lose its most talented members to the dark side with such regularity? And I found my answer. We lose them because we fail them, because we offer dogma where they need wisdom, rules where they need understanding. The space station appears as a dark silhouette against the dying star, ancient, barely functional, but still operational enough to provide atmosphere and gravity. The Hawk docks, and you proceed to the designated meeting point, a cargo bay converted into a makeshift living space. Bastila Shan is already there. She looks older than her years. The war aged everyone who fought in it, but she carries an additional weight. The burden of loving someone who became a monster, then a stranger, then disappeared into the unknown, carrying secrets that terrified even him. She recognizes Atris immediately. The two women stare at each other across the cargo bay. Once they were allies, then enemies, now something undefined. United only by their connection to Revan and their shared understanding that the council they served was built on comfortable lies. "You came," Bastila says. Her voice is rougher than you expected. Worn by years of shouting over starship engines and battle noise, I wondered if anyone ever would. If anyone would follow the trail Revan left. He said someone would eventually ask the right questions. I hoped he was wrong. She gestures to cargo crates, repurposed as seats. You all sit, the informality strange after years of formal Jedi protocols, and Bastila begins to speak. Not a report, not testimony, just the truth as she lived it. After we destroyed the Starforge, after Malak fell, everyone thought it was over. The Republic celebrated, the Council called it a great victory. But Revan knew better. The mind wipe the Council performed was not complete. Fragments kept surfacing, memories, feelings, especially when he slept. He would wake gasping, speaking words in Sith that he claimed not to understand, drawing star charts from memory, coordinates to places that should not exist in any database. She pulls out a datapad, old and battered, and places it on the crate between you. This is his journal. Everything he remembered, everything he pieced together, and eventually, everything he realized the Council had stolen from him. You activate the datapad. Revan's words fill the screen. His handwriting starts neat and controlled. By the end it is almost frantic. The entries span months, and they tell a story that makes your blood run cold. Revan did not go to war against the Mandalorians because of idealism or righteousness. He went because someone wanted him to. Someone manipulated Mandalore the Ultimate into attacking the Republic. Someone orchestrated the entire conflict to identify Force-sensitive individuals with the strength and will to lead. And when Revan proved to be the strongest, when he showed tactical brilliance that won battle after battle, that someone reached out to him. The entries detail Revan's journey into the unknown regions during the final phases of the war. How he followed strange hyperspace signatures, how he found a world called Dromund Kaas, and how there, in temples that made the Sith tombs on Korriban look like children's toys, he encountered the true Sith Empire. Not a remnant, not a shadow of former glory. A fully functional empire that had been rebuilding for 1,000 years, and at its center, an emperor so powerful in the dark side that he had achieved a form of immortality, a being who had consumed an entire planet's population to fuel a ritual that made him essentially unkillable. The emperor spoke to Revan, showed him visions of the coming invasion, fleets that would dwarf anything the Republic could field. Sith Lords whose power would make even Exar Kun seem weak by comparison, and technology derived from the same Rakata knowledge that built the Starforge but refined over millennia. Revan realized the Republic could not win, not as it existed, not with the Jedi Order in its current state. So he made a choice. He would use the Emperor's own weapons, would take the title of Dark Lord, would find the Starforge and use it to build an army, would conquer the Republic and remake it into something capable of surviving what was coming. But the conquest had rules. Revan never destroyed Republic infrastructure, never targeted civilians when it could be avoided. Every world he took was left with its industrial capacity intact, its people organized and prepared. He was not building an empire for himself. He was preparing a fighting force for a war the Republic did not know was coming. And then, Malak betrayed him, attacked his ship, left him for dead. The plan collapsed. Malak, who never understood the true purpose, waged a campaign of destruction that undid everything Revan had carefully built. And when the Council captured Revan, when they wiped his mind and rebuilt him as a loyal Jedi, they destroyed the galaxy's best chance at survival. The Stealer's eyes glistened with unshed tears. After he remembered all this, after the fragments cohered into full understanding, he knew what he had to do. He had to return to Dromund Kaas, had to confront the Emperor, had to stop the invasion before it began. And I wanted to go with him. I begged him to let me help, but he refused. He said what he was planning would require him to touch the dark side in ways no Jedi should, that he might not come back as himself, that he could not ask me to watch him fall again. She takes a shaking breath. That was 4 years ago. I have heard nothing since. No word, no forced sense of him across our bond. Either he is dead or he is so deep in the dark side that the man I loved no longer exists, and the Council does nothing. I brought them this information, showed them his journal, explained what he was trying to do, and they called it Sith lies, corruption speaking through me. They ordered me to forget, to move on, to pretend the greatest threat the galaxy has ever faced does not exist. The cargo bay falls silent, except for the hum of the station's failing life support. You process the magnitude of what you have learned. Revan did not fall. He sacrificed himself, became a monster to fight something worse, and the Council, through ignorance or cowardice, destroyed him for it. Manacle speaks for the first time since you arrived. The exile, the Jedi who activated the mass shadow generator, where are they now? Bastila's expression darkens. To dawn, searching for Revan. I told them what I knew, gave them the coordinates to Dromund Kaas. They left 3 years ago. I have heard nothing from them either. So everyone who truly understood the threat is either dead, missing, or silenced, Atrice says, and the Council continues to pretend everything is fine, that the Jedi Civil War was an aberration, that we can return to the way things were before. Bastila nods. That is why I answered your message, because if you have come this far, learned this much, then you have a choice to make. The same choice Revan faced. Do you return to the Order, and try to warn them, knowing they will reject and possibly destroy you? Or do you continue down this path, seeking the complete truth regardless of where it leads? You know your answer before she finishes asking, but hearing it voiced makes it real, makes it irreversible. You look at Atrice, at Mycicle, at Bastila with her haunted eyes and broken heart, and you speak the words that will define everything that follows. We finish what Revan started. We find the truth about the Sith Emperor. We gather proof the Council cannot ignore. And if they still refuse to act, then we act without them. The galaxy does not have the luxury of Jedi politics anymore. Bastila smiles. Sad, but genuine, Revan said. You would say that. Whoever followed his trail, he said they would understand that sometimes saving what you love requires becoming what you hate. He left something for you. Insurance, proof even the Council will have to acknowledge. She hands you a data crystal, small, unassuming, but as you hold it, you feel its weight in more than physical terms. This contains everything, full documentation of the true Sith Empire, coordinates, intelligence, battle plans, everything Revan gathered before Malak's betrayal, and one more thing, a recording, his final message before he disappeared into the unknown regions. Your fingers close around the crystal. The answer you have been seeking. The truth that cost Revan his soul and might cost you yours. But there is no turning back now. The path is clear, terrible, but clear. And somewhere in the darkness beyond known space, the Sith Emperor waits, patient, eternal, aware that pieces are moving on the board, that players who understand the game are finally emerging. The real war has not even begun. Back aboard the Ebon Hawk, you gather in the conference room. The data crystal sits in the center of the table like an accusation. Everything you need to know, everything the Council has refused to see, all compressed into a piece of technology smaller than your thumb. Madical handles the technical aspects, interfacing the crystal with the ship's main computer. The data begins to flow. Files, images, recordings, thousands of them. Years of intelligence gathering compressed into digestible formats, and as you begin to review it, patterns emerge that rewrite everything you thought you understood about galactic history. The first files detail the great hyperspace war from 5,000 years ago, but not the sanitized Republic version. This is raw intelligence from both sides of the conflict, and it reveals something the history texts never mention. Naga Sado's invasion was not his idea. He was following orders. The true Sith Emperor, even then, was orchestrating events from his hidden throne world. The invasion was a test, a probe to measure Republic military capacity, Jedi strength, response times, defensive capabilities, and when the invasion was repelled, when Naga Sado fled back into the unknown regions, he brought with him data that would shape Sith strategy for the next 5 millennia. But the manipulation goes back further, much further. Atrice pulls up files on the 100-year darkness, the conflict 7,000 years ago when the first Dark Jedi were exiled from the Order. The official history claims they left because of philosophical differences, that they wanted to explore the dark side and the Council forbade it. Revan's intelligence tells a different story. The Dark Jedi were manipulated. Dreams, visions, whispers in meditation that felt like insights but were actually external influences. Someone was planting ideas, nurturing dissent, creating the schism that would eventually produce the Sith Order. And when those Dark Jedi were exiled, when they fled into unknown space, they did not discover Korriban by accident. They were guided there, led to a world where ancient knowledge waited, where the Sith species worshipped the dark side and could be molded into servants, where the foundations of an empire could be built. Every major conflict, every schism in the Jedi Order, every war that tore the Republic apart, All of it traces back to subtle manipulation by an intelligence that has been active for at least 7,000 years, possibly much longer. The Rakata, their infinite empire, collapsed 30,000 years ago, destroyed by a plague that severed their connection to the Force. But before the collapse, their greatest scientists detected the anomaly. A dark side presence so powerful it registered on instruments designed to measure stellar phenomena. They tried to investigate, sent expeditions, none returned. And then their empire fell. Not from natural plague, from something introduced, something that targeted Force-sensitive Rakata specifically, as if the anomaly they detected decided they were getting too close. Mekel's face has gone pale. You are saying this entity, the Sith Emperor, has been manipulating galactic events for 30,000 years, that every major civilization that achieved Force mastery has been destroyed or corrupted. The evidence suggests it, you reply. The Rakata fell. The Sith species was enslaved and used as soldiers. The Jedi Order has been in perpetual conflict since its founding, and every attempt to break the cycle, every Jedi who tries to find a different path either falls to the dark side or gets exiled by the Council. A Trace is reviewing files on the Mandalorian Wars now. Her fingers fly across the datapad, pulling up communications intercepts, battle analyses. And there, buried in intelligence reports that should never have existed, is the proof. Mandalore the Ultimate received his orders from someone. The Mandalorian crusade against the Republic was not organic, it was orchestrated. Communications encrypted in Sith ciphers, technology that should not have been available to Mandalorians, battle strategies that bore the hallmarks of Force user planning. The Emperor wanted to identify strong Force sensitives. He needed Jedi who would ignore the Council's orders, who would go to war despite being forbidden, who would show the strength of will and tactical brilliance necessary to potentially serve him or oppose him. Either outcome was useful. And Revan was perfect, young, brilliant, powerful, charismatic enough to lead others into disobedience. The Emperor must have watched him with great interest as he won battle after battle against the Mandalorians. Then came the critical moment. Near the end of the war, Revan and Malak pursued the retreating Mandalorian forces beyond known space, following them into the unknown regions, and there the Emperor made contact. You find the file, a recording made by Revan himself after his mind was rewritten by the Council, but before his memories fully returned. He is speaking to Bastila, trying to explain fragments of memory that make no sense to him. His voice fills the conference room. I remember a world of eternal storms, purple lightning that never stops, buildings of black stone that seem to absorb light, and a presence, something vast, ancient. It spoke to me but not with words, showed me visions. The Republic burning, the Jedi Temple in ruins, everything I cared about destroyed. But then it showed me another vision, the same future but delayed, prepared for, survivable if the right actions were taken. The recording cuts off, but you understand what happened. The Emperor showed Revan the invasion, made him understand that the true Sith Empire was coming, and the Republic could not win, then offered him a choice: submit and serve, or resist and watch everything burn. Revan chose neither. He took a third option. He would use the Emperor's own weapons, study Sith techniques, find the Starforge, build an army powerful enough to resist the coming invasion. But he would not serve the Emperor. He would prepare the Republic to fight. It was a brilliant plan. Desperate but brilliant, and it nearly worked. But Malak, who never fully understood the purpose, saw only power, saw his master as an obstacle to his own ambition. The betrayal destroyed everything. The next set of files details the Jedi Civil War from Revan's perspective, and you see the pattern. Revan conquered strategically, targeted military assets, infrastructure, industrial worlds, but he left populations intact, left governments functional. He was not trying to destroy the Republic, he was militarizing it, hardening it for the conflict he knew was inevitable. The worlds he conquered were not occupied in the traditional sense. They were organized, prepared, their industries converted to military production, their populations trained in defensive strategies, everything designed to create a republic that could survive the Emperor's invasion. And the Jedi he turned were not corrupted for corruption's sake. They were tested. The weak fell completely to the dark side and were discarded. The strong maintained enough control to be useful. He was building an army of Force users capable of standing against Sith Lords whose power exceeded anything the modern order had faced. Mikkel makes a sound, somewhere between a laugh and a sob. The Council destroyed him for trying to save the galaxy. They took the one person who understood the threat and turned him into a weapon against his own plan. Idris is silent, staring at the data scrolling past. You can see her worldview crumbling, everything she believed, everything she used to justify her actions, all of it built on lies. The Council told to avoid facing uncomfortable truths. The final set of files contains current intelligence, data on the true Sith Empire as it exists now, and it is worse than you imagined. The Emperor rules from Dromund Kaes, a world so saturated in the dark side that it exists in perpetual storm. His empire spans dozens of worlds in the unknown regions. His military is vast. His Sith Lords number in the hundreds, each one trained from childhood in techniques the modern Jedi have forgotten. And the Emperor himself is something beyond comprehension. He performed a ritual on a world called Nathema, consumed every living thing on the planet. Every person, every animal, every plant, every microorganism drained their life energy to fuel an act of dark side alchemy that made him functionally immortal. Nathema now exists as a wound in the Force, a planet where nothing lives, where nothing can live, where even the Force itself is absent, a scar on reality that will never heal. And the Emperor plans to repeat this ritual, not on one world but across the entire galaxy. He wants to consume all life, every sentient being, every creature, every plant, all of it fuel for a ritual that will elevate him beyond anything the universe has ever seen. Not just immortal but omnipotent, a god in truth rather than merely in power. The invasion Revan tried to prepare for is not about conquest. It is about extinction. The complete annihilation of all life in the galaxy to feed one being's insatiable hunger for power. You sit back, the weight of this knowledge crushing. The Council has been arguing about philosophy, while an existential threat grows stronger. They exiled Jedi for asking questions while the enemy prepared to exterminate everything. They chose comfortable ignorance over terrible truth and damned the galaxy for it. Bastila's final message plays automatically. Her face appears in hologram, tired but determined. If you have seen this data, then you understand what we are facing. Revan is trying to stop the Emperor. The exile followed to help him, but I do not know if they will succeed. I do not even know if they are still alive. So I am trusting you with this knowledge, trusting that you will do what the Council will not, warn the Republic, prepare for war, and if necessary finish what Revan started, no matter the cost. The hologram fades. The conference room falls silent. Outside the viewport, stars drift past in their ancient patterns, unaware that one of them might soon birth the end of all things. Atris speaks first. Her voice is hollow. We cannot go to the Council with this. They will reject it. Call it Sith propaganda. They might even execute us as traitors for possessing it. Mikkel nods slowly. But we cannot do nothing. If even half of this is true, the invasion could begin any time. We need allies. People with power who will listen. You make the decision. One more destination, Drummond Cassie itself. You need to confirm this intelligence firsthand. Need to see the threat with your own eyes. Because if you are going to convince anyone to act, if you are going to finish what Revan started, you need proof that cannot be denied. The course is set. The hawk turns toward the unknown regions, toward Drummond Cass, toward the heart of the enemy empire. And as you cross into uncharted space, as known stars fall away behind you, one thought dominates your mind. Revan tried to save the galaxy by becoming a monster. The exile tried by becoming a wound in the Force. Now it is your turn, and you have no idea what you will have to become to succeed where they failed. The journey through the unknown regions takes longer than any hyperspace route you have traveled before. Standard navigation is useless here. The star charts end at the edge of Republic space, replaced by vast darkness punctuated by stellar anomalies that make accurate navigation nearly impossible. You follow the coordinates Revan left, trusting that someone who successfully reached Drummond Cass and returned can guide you there as well. But you make one stop first. A decision made as much from necessity as strategy. You need confirmation. Need voices beyond your small group to validate what you have learned. And there are 3 Jedi Masters, survivors of the Mandalorian Wars and the Jedi Civil War, who might understand what the Council refuses to see. Master Kavar on Onderon, Master Vrok on Dantooine, Master Zez-Kai El on Nar Shedda. Each of them exiled themselves after the wars, unable to reconcile what they witnessed with the teachings they once held absolute. If anyone will listen, it might be them. The hawk drops out of hyperspace near Onderon. First, the jungle world hangs in space like a green jewel, its wild beauty hiding centuries of political turmoil and dark side corruption. Kavar is here, living in the palace of Queen Talia, serving as advisor and protector. Of all the surviving masters, he is the most practical, the least dogmatic. You find him in the palace gardens, meditating beneath ancient trees. He senses your approach long before you speak. His eyes open, and you see weariness there. Not physical exhaustion, but the soul-deep fatigue of someone who has seen too much and can no longer pretend ignorance is wisdom. I wondered when someone would come, he says before you can introduce yourself. The Force has been turbulent lately. Currents and eddies that suggest great change approaching. You carry the weight of terrible knowledge. I can feel it on you like a shroud. You do not waste time with pleasantries. You show him the data crystal, play Revan's recordings, display the intelligence on the true Sith Empire, and you watch his face as the foundations of everything he believed crack and crumble. When the presentation ends, Kavar sits in silence for a long moment. Then he speaks, his voice heavy with regret. We knew, not the details perhaps, not the full scope of the threat, but we knew Revan discovered something in the unknown regions, something that drove him to actions we could not comprehend. And we chose not to investigate, chose to believe he had fallen to simple corruption because that narrative was easier to accept. He stands, pacing among the garden paths. During the war, I saw things that troubled me. Mandalorians using tactics that seemed almost prescient, as if someone was feeding them intelligence on Jedi capabilities. I brought my concerns to the Council. They dismissed them as paranoia, said I was seeing patterns where none existed. After the war, after Revan's fall, I tried to investigate on my own. But the Council blocked my access to archives. Classified information I had clearance to see suddenly became forbidden. They were actively suppressing inquiry, and when I persisted they suggested I take a sabbatical, suggested I was too close to the trauma to think clearly. So I left, came here, told myself I was honoring their wisdom. But wisdom would have demanded investigation, not suppression. Courage would have required facing uncomfortable truths, not hiding from them. The Council chose institutional stability over galactic survival. and Jedi like me let them make that choice unchallenged. You travel next to Dantooine, to the rebuilt enclave where this journey began. Master Vrock is here, overseeing reconstruction efforts. He is older than Kavar, more traditional. You expect resistance from him, denial. But what you find is something unexpected: shame. The ruined enclave stands as testament to Malak's bombardment, to the consequences of the Jedi Civil War. Vrock has spent years rebuilding it stone by stone, as if physical labor could atone for moral failure. You show him the evidence, and he does not argue, does not defend the Council's actions. He simply nods, as if confirming something he has long suspected. I voted to exile Revan's followers, he says. Every Jedi who fought in the Mandalorian Wars, I argued they had fallen, that their connection to the Force was corrupted, that allowing them to remain in the Order would poison it from within. I was so certain of my righteousness, so convinced that adherence to the code was more important than understanding why so many chose to break it. But after the war ended, after Revan was gone and Malak was defeated, I began reviewing records, trying to understand where we failed as teachers, and I found gaps. Entire sections of the archives were missing. Historical records that should have existed simply were not there. Someone had been editing our history, removing information, and when I asked the other council members about it, they changed the subject, redirected, made it clear that certain questions were not to be asked. So I stopped asking, came here, rebuilt buildings while ignoring the fact that our entire philosophical foundation was built on sand. I told myself I was being humble, accepting that some knowledge was beyond my understanding. But humility is not the same as cowardice, and I was a coward. The final master, Zez-Kai-El, is the hardest to find. Nar Shaddaa is a moon of smugglers and criminals, where Jedi presence is neither wanted nor welcome. But he is here hiding in the refugee sector, living among the displaced and forgotten. You find him in a shelter, distributing food to families who fled the wars. He looks nothing like a Jedi master. His robes are threadbare, his face is lined with suffering, but his eyes are clear, present, aware. He does not wait for your presentation. The moment he sees you, he knows, come, not here. These people have suffered enough. They do not need to hear what you carry. He leads you to a quiet room in an abandoned warehouse, and there, away from innocent ears, you share everything. The holocrons, the intelligence, the truth about Revan and the Emperor and the invasion that is coming. Zez-Kai-El listens without interruption. When you finish, he nods slowly. The Council has known about the true Sith Empire for over 1,000 years. Not the current details, not the specific threat, but they have known that something survived beyond the borders of known space, that the Sith did not die with Naga Sadow. Ancient records spoke of it, warnings from Jedi who traveled into the unknown regions and returned changed. They described worlds of darkness, empires built on suffering, and they begged the Council to prepare, to investigate, to take the threat seriously. But the Council was afraid, not of the Sith, of what acknowledging the threat would mean. It would require militarizing the Order, training Jedi as warriors instead of peacekeepers, embracing aspects of the Force they had declared forbidden, becoming in essence more like the enemy to fight the enemy. So they chose to believe the warnings were exaggeration. Corruption speaking through compromised Jedi. They classified the records, removed them from general access, and they created a culture where questioning official narratives was treated as the first step toward falling to the dark side. Generation after generation, the lie compounded, until even council members no longer knew they were perpetuating a deception. They genuinely believed the sanitized history they taught, genuinely thought they were protecting the Order by suppressing uncomfortable truths. He meets your eyes, and you see despair there. but also determination. Revan understood this, understood that the Council would never act until it was too late. That is why he did what he did, why he was willing to become a Sith Lord, to be hated and feared. If it meant preparing the galaxy for survival, he sacrificed everything: his identity, his relationships, his soul, and the Council repaid him by destroying the person he was and calling it redemption. The three masters stand with you now in the warehouse on Nar Shaddaa, Kava, Vrok, Zez-Kai-El, united by their understanding that the order they served has failed its most fundamental responsibility, to protect life in the galaxy, to face truth regardless of comfort. What do we do? Kavar asks. The Council will not listen to us. We are exiles. Self-imposed perhaps, but exiles nonetheless. Our testimony will be dismissed as bitterness or corruption. You have the answer. You have thought about nothing else since leaving Malachor. We go to Drummond Cassus. We gather irrefutable proof of the Sith Empire, visual evidence, recordings, physical artifacts, and we bring it back not just to the Council, but to the Senate, to the Supreme Chancellor, to the Republic military. We force them to acknowledge the threat by making denial impossible. And if they still refuse, Atris says quietly, if we bring them proof, and they choose comfort over truth, then we act without them. Mephiel finishes. We warn whoever will listen, prepare whoever we can, and we pray it is enough. Zez-Kai-El places a hand on your shoulder. You understand what you are proposing. Traveling to the heart of the Sith Empire with no backup, no Council support. If you are captured, no one will come for you. If you are killed, your warning dies with you. This is a suicide mission in all but name. You know, of course you know, but the alternative is watching the galaxy die, because those with the power to act chose not to, chose institutional preservation over existential necessity. Revan made his choice. The exile made theirs. Now it is your turn, and you make it with clear eyes and steady hands. We leave tomorrow. Any who wish to join us are welcome. Any who wish to stay and prepare other defenses are needed there as well. But one way or another, the truth will be known, even if it costs us everything. The Bar nods. I will come. I failed once by choosing safety over action. I will not fail again. Sight Brock hesitates, then speaks. I am old. My combat skills have deteriorated, but I can document, record, bear witness. If that has value, then I will come as well. Zez-Kai-El looks at the three of you, then at the other masters. We are walking into the heart of darkness, into a place where the Emperor's power is absolute. None of us may return, but perhaps that is fitting. The Order failed. We failed. Maybe our deaths in service of truth can accomplish what our lives in service of lies could not. The decision is made. 7 of you now. 3 historians turned investigators, 3 masters who finally chose courage over comfort, and 1 former council member whose obsession with preserving the past has transformed into determination to shape the future. 7 against an empire, 7 against a god, 7 carrying the weight of a galaxy that does not know it needs saving. You return to the Ebon Hawk together, and as the ship lifts off from Nar Shaddaa, as you set course for the unknown regions in the dark heart of the Sith Empire, you feel the Force shift around you, not guiding, not protecting, simply acknowledging, bearing witness to a choice that will echo through history. The Masters settle into the crew quarters that once housed Revan's companions, Kavar in the gunner position, Vrok in the medical bay surrounded by recording equipment, Zez-Kai-El in the cargo hold, meditating, preparing his mind for what is to come. Atrices stands beside you in the cockpit. As hyperspace envelops the ship, for the first time since you met her, she seems at peace. Not happy. Peace and happiness are luxuries none of you can afford, but centered, resolved. I collected Sith artifacts for years, she says quietly. Told myself I was preserving history. But I was really searching for answers the Council refused to provide, trying to understand why we keep failing, why the cycle continues, and now I know. We fail because we are afraid, afraid of the dark side, afraid of our own capacity for darkness, so we suppress, deny, exile, and in doing so we ensure the cycle continues. She turns to face you. Whatever happens on Drummond Cass, whatever we find there, I want you to know something. You saved me. Not from falling. I was already falling, drowning in artifacts and dark side whispers. You saved me by showing me that seeking truth is not the same as seeking power, that sometimes the bravest thing a Jedi can do is acknowledge they were wrong. The Hawk hurtles through hyperspace toward a world that exists only in nightmares and suppressed intelligence reports, toward the throne of an immortal emperor, toward answers that may cost you everything. But you no longer care about the cost, only the truth, only stopping what is coming, only finishing what Revan started, and the exile continued. The galaxy is running out of time, and you are running out of hyperspace. Drummond Cass waits ahead, and with it, the moment of reckoning the Council has delayed for 1,000 years. Drummond Cass announces itself long before you arrive. The dark side presence is so concentrated that you can feel it through hyperspace itself. A wrongness in the Force, a gravity well of suffering and malice that pulls at your consciousness like a black hole pulls at light. The Masters feel it too. Kavar emerges from the gunnery station, his face gray. Vrock abandons his recording equipment to meditate, trying to center himself against the psychic assault. Even Zez-Kaiel, who has spent years among the broken and desperate on Nar Shaddaa, looks shaken. This is what Revan faced, Atrices says. This is what he walked into voluntarily, knowing he might never return. How does anyone maintain their identity in the face of something like this? Maybe they do not, you reply. Maybe that is the point. Maybe Revan understood he would be destroyed by this place and accepted it as the cost of delaying the inevitable. The Hawk drops out of hyperspace, and Drummond Cass fills the viewport. The planet is shrouded in perpetual storm. Purple lightning arcs between massive thunderheads. Rain falls in sheets so thick the surface is barely visible, and beneath the storm you sense cities, temples, an entire civilization built in darkness. Netzil is scanning furiously, gathering data even as his hands shake. The atmospheric readings are impossible. The storm should have torn the planet apart millennia ago, but it is maintained. Artificially sustained by dark side energy. The entire planet is a ritual, a demonstration of power. You need to land without being detected. An impossible task on a world where the Emperor's influence touches everything. But Revan's intelligence includes stealth approach vectors, routes that use the storm itself as cover, paths that avoid the major population centers and military installations. You follow the coordinates to a landing site in the jungle outside the capital city of Canis. The moment the Hawk's landing struts touch ground, the dark side crashes over you like a wave. Not subtle whispers but screaming demands. Surrender, join, submit, die. The 7 of you stand in the cargo bay, preparing for what comes next. Equipment checks, weapons ready, minds centered as much as possible against the overwhelming darkness. But you all know the truth. Preparation means nothing here. This is the Emperor's domain. You survive only as long as he allows it. Kavar speaks first, addressing what everyone is thinking. We may not all return to this ship. If any of you wish to remain aboard as backup, there is no shame in that choice. No one moves. No one speaks. You have come too far to turn back now. The boarding ramp lowers. Jungle air rushes in. thick with moisture and ozone and something else. The smell of decay, of ancient rot, as if the jungle itself is slowly dying from exposure to concentrated dark side energy. You step onto Dromenkaisis, and the planet responds. You feel it through the Force. Awareness. The Emperor knows you are here. Maybe he has known since you entered the system. Maybe he has been watching your entire journey, amused by mortals trying to comprehend immortality. The jungle is alive but wrong, trees twisted into unnatural shapes, creatures that watch from the undergrowth with too many eyes, plants that seem to reach toward you with predatory intent. This is not nature. This is nature corrupted, remade in the image of the dark side. Vrook uses his datapad to navigate, following the route Revan marked. It leads deeper into the jungle, away from the capital, toward something Revan identified only as critical. His notes are cryptic, intentionally vague, as if he feared even recorded words might be used against whoever followed. Hours pass. The jungle grows denser, the dark side grows stronger, and then you see it, rising from the jungle canopy like a monument to despair. The citadel, the Emperor's fortress, a structure of black stone that seems to absorb light, walls covered in Sith runes that pulse with malevolent energy, towers that reach toward the storm sky like claws. But you are not going to the citadel. Not yet. Revan's coordinates lead to something else. A prison. Maelstrom Prison. His notes called it a facility where the Emperor keeps enemies too valuable to kill but too dangerous to free. The prison is built into a cliff face, half hidden by the jungle. Automated defenses scan the approach. You expect alarms, immediate response, but nothing happens. The defenses are inactive, not damaged, simply turned off. Someone wants you to enter. Zez-Kai-El voices what you are all thinking. This is a trap. The Emperor knows we are here. He is allowing this, curious perhaps about what we hope to accomplish. Probably you agree, but we did not come this far to turn back, because the enemy knows we are coming. We knew this was suicide when we left Nar Shaddaa. At least we die seeking truth, instead of hiding from it. The prison entrance is unguarded. The massive doors stand open, revealing corridors lit by flickering red emergency lights. You proceed carefully, weapons ready, senses extended, but you encounter no resistance, no guards, no prisoners. The facility seems abandoned. Deeper, down multiple levels, following corridors that reek of suffering. Cells line the walls, most empty, but in some you find remains, bodies in various states of decay, Jedi robes, Republic uniforms, people who came here and never left. In one cell, you find something that stops you cold, a Jedi holocron, cracked, drained of power, but recognizable. You have seen this design in archives. This belonged to a council member who disappeared 20 years ago. The official story was he died on a diplomatic mission. The truth is he came here, found the Emperor, and paid the price. How many, Atris whispers, how many Jedi have discovered the truth over the centuries? How many tried to warn the Order and were silenced or ignored? Mechel is recording everything, documenting the cells, the remains, the evidence of systematic imprisonment and execution. This is it. This is the proof we need. Visual documentation of what the Emperor does to those who oppose him. But you know it is not enough. The Council will claim the footage is fabricated, Sith deception. They will find reasons to deny because accepting means acknowledging their failure. You need more. You need direct contact with the Emperor's domain, undeniable proof of his power and his intentions. The prison's lowest level contains a single occupied cell, and in it you find what Revan left for you to find, not Revan himself, but someone who knows what happened to him. A Sith, Not a pure blood, but a human woman wearing the robes of a Dark Lord. She is chained to the wall with binders designed to suppress Force abilities. But she is alive, conscious, and when she sees you, she laughs. Jedi, of course, he said you would come. Said someone would eventually follow his path. I did not believe him, but Revan was always too clever for his own good. You approached the cell cautiously. Who are you? Why are you imprisoned? I am Darth Nihilus, or I was, member of the Dark Council, one of the 12 most powerful Sith in the Empire, until I made the mistake of questioning the Emperor's timeline, of suggesting we delay the invasion. That mistake cost me everything. She shifts in her chains. The Emperor tolerates no dissent, not from Jedi, not even from his own Sith Lords. We exist to serve his will, and his will is the consumption of all life in the galaxy. Anyone who suggests otherwise is eliminated. I spoke against him in council chambers. He did not kill me. Death would be mercy. Instead, he put me here, kept me alive so he could feed on my suffering, use my pain to fuel his rituals. Where is Revan? You demand. What happened to him? Nihilus' smile is bitter. Your precious hero is alive, barely. The Emperor keeps him in the Citadel, trapped in stasis. For 4 years he has been torturing Revan, pulling knowledge from his mind, learning Republic secrets, Jedi techniques. Everything Revan knows, the Emperor now knows, and Revan cannot die, cannot escape, cannot even lose consciousness. He is aware every moment, suffering beyond comprehension. And the exile, Atris asks, what of Mitra Surik? Dead. She came 3 years ago, tried to free Revan. The Emperor killed her personally, used her death to break Revan further, to show him the futility of resistance. The words hit like physical blows. The exile dead, Revan imprisoned and tortured. Every plan, every sacrifice, all of it for nothing. But Nihilus is not finished. There is hope, small, desperate, but real. The Emperor has been using Revan's knowledge to refine his invasion plans, but Revan is strong, stronger than any Jedi the Emperor has encountered. He is resisting, feeding false information, delaying. Every day the invasion does not launch is another day. Revan has won, but he is breaking. Soon there will be nothing left of him, and when that happens, the invasion begins. You have weeks, maybe months, no more. If you want to save the galaxy, you need to act now, and you need to accept what Revan already knows. You cannot fight the Emperor directly. His power is absolute here, but you can expose him. Warn the Republic, force them to prepare. That is what Revan wanted. That is why he left the trail for you to follow. The prison seems to shrink around you, the weight of terrible knowledge crushing down. Revan is beyond saving. The exile is dead, and the invasion is imminent. But you have what you came for. Proof, testimony from a Sith Lord, documentation of the Empire's existence, intelligence on their capabilities, everything needed to force the Republic to acknowledge the threat. Now you just need to escape a planet controlled by an immortal Emperor who knows you are here and is playing with you like a predator plays with prey before the kill.